Welcome to this week's video. We've got a fair chunk of stuff done. It might not show really, but we have. We've got the leading edge coming together. We've got the majority of the geodetic completed, and we're starting to get the aileron side of things sorted out. So let's see what I got up to. Catch you in a mo. Okay, so I've dry assembled the extra geodetic in the opposite direction, the top geodetic, as far as I can. I haven't gone to this bay here because this rib, the third rib out, is the one that has the plywood aileron hinge support rib section going on it. But the interest factor, which has required a little bit of modification, I've been thinking about it. If you look how the corner is here, this one is having to be offset slightly. I've had to put a slight, hopefully you might be able to see that, a slight notch into the back face of this one. That shouldn't affect the strength too much because of the glue joint there, and it's got the glue joint here on the compression rib, so fairly strong piece of geodetic going across. It's supported here again with this piece of geo, so that keeps the strength up. But here I have to notch out a section to take on this upright, aluminium upright, and because I had to notch out so much, I wanted to put back the strength a bit, so I've doubled up the geodetic in this area. But that's going to have a secondary benefit, which hopefully you'll see later on when I start finishing off the wing, where I'm looking at putting a ply plate over here. Looking at putting a ply plate over here to support the covering. So there'll be some other little bits going on to support that, and I'll have to machine it down to get everything so it just sits dead right. I'm thinking about 32nd ply just to do that job, so it'll have notches cut in. Of course it'll have to come forward here. I want about an inch and a bit inch and a half for the covering going out, so it'll come out here about an inch and a half, be supported similarly with some extra geodetic material just to make everything sort of link up nicely. So that'll go into here. Again, that'll help to support the fact that this one's been chopped away a bit and come forward. You'll see that final product when I get to it, but that's the bit where there's no way around it. If I was to put it in this format, well, it would disappear, it would be chopped off, it wouldn't do any work at all. The plans don't really show how you get around that little area, so it's a little bit of work it out as you go. So that's my solution. I'll be doing something similar at the back here. I've yet to quite fully work out how I'm going to set that up so that the plywood can go over, but I'll want it so that there's a slot so the covering can go onto this and be supported, going back to the other side, so it'll go over to where the false rib is. So the false trailing edge is at back here. It'll be like a ply plate with the slots in for the vertical sections there. That's as far as I can get at the moment for the geodetic. All diagonals for the outboard 3 bays, so these 3 bays here, and this lot will have to wait. So looking at my plan of action, I've got the geo in there, so now I'm going to glue in some of these triangular sections going in here into this bay. I'll put one of the triangular sections in there, and I'll put a triangular section in here. Okay, so after much pontificating, I've drawn on a line here which shows the front edge of the 16th aileron spar line point. I've drawn a centre line on to the rib here. I just move across a little bit. Hopefully you can see I've put in a nose piece here which is set back the same distance as the spar would be. I've put an aileron support rib in place. I've drawn a datum going across. That way I've got a datum there. I've taken a rib, an aileron end rib, I've put it against the main rib here, and I've got that so that it's level with the front of this nose rib, and I've drawn a datum across there. From that I've discovered a little quirk. If we put those two bits together so that the datum lines are there, the hole that goes into the aileron end rib is meant to be 1.25 inches back from the leading edge, and the hole in here is meant to be back 3/4 inch from the front edge. So that would mean that there should be a 1/2 inch difference there. I don't know if this will show, but it is approximately 5/16 inch. I thought, well, a bit of an issue there. How am I going to go around dealing with this? Well, I could have the hole forward in the support rib. That would be a fair thing to do and would work out quite well. But when you set a set of dividers up at the 1.25 inch point like that, and stick it onto the centre line, and then simulate moving the aileron, by the time you get to the aileron throw, the distance between the edge here, remember it's got a ply leading edge on it as well, is 1/4 inch, or near enough 1/4 inch. As we get, especially towards the max end of the travel, it's 1/4 inch. And on the plans, so I don't know if that's focusing very well, but here on the drawing it says 1/4 inch clearance, so a minimum 1/4 inch top and bottom. That means that when we start getting the aileron towards its full travel, that clearance is going to be a lot less, and we could have binding. So I had a quick scratch of my head and thought about it. Looked at the section of plan down here, across so you can see it. Hopefully you can see down here. And when you look at the aileron spar line here, it is behind the pivot point. So we don't want to have the pivot point in line with that. I had a little look at the rib. So looking at the rib, if I go back to the spar line, so I set the dividers up to there and do an arc, it barely moves across the thing. It's got a little bit of extra clearance, so in theory we could put the pivot point behind the spar line, and then the clearance remains outside all the time. That would be quite a standard sort of system to have. And as it goes up, this would protrude out slightly out of the bottom of the wing, giving drag. That would be the way of going there. But unfortunately, I don't want to go that route, because that really just changed the dynamics of how the aileron works, and this is a reasonably proven aileron. So going by the way things would be set up, you would go back from the leading edge of here 3/4 inch to where this would be, and if I do that, I end up with a pivot point about there, which I have marked. Now if I set the dividers up to the actual radius and skim across, we don't get anywhere near that 1/4 inch. We're going to less than 1/8 of an inch. So my plan, rightly or wrongly, is I'm going to drill the actual support ribs at their 1 3/4 point, and I'll drill these at that point there. And I've checked that with the AN4 nut, but the AN4 nut would still sit in front of the spar line. So I'm not compromising the spar web, I'd still have it in that position there. Hopefully that will work out nicely. It will have to be dressed out for the washer, but it'll have to be dressed out for the washer anyway on the spar web. The nut can be there, that will be nice because it'll actually be sort of bonded in place, there's no way it could come undone. And we have a system where I'm not losing all the gap, it's staying reasonably constant as the aileron moves through its range of motion. These little things are sent to try us. I can't see any other way around it. I can't move the aileron end ribs back to make it at the 1 1/4 position, because if I did that it wouldn't match any of the nose ribs, all the profiles would be changed and that wouldn't work. So there is a compromise. We have to do compromises occasionally. So I've made up a very simple jig because the datum is the top of the rib is the same for all of my aileron end ribs. They're all dressed, the bottoms, thankfully for the aileron end ribs, they're all identical, so, and they all had a little bit to be dressed off all the way along, so no need to build up the same way as I have the support ribs. So I've every single rib has got a line drawn on the top there, so they're identical all the way across. So that's just a sort of a double check datum, so I can put that into there, make sure that the rib is lined up. There's a little block packer here which has got a datum point on it, so I can put this in to there, put the rib in, we can clamp this all together. This will be clamped onto the drill press. I can drill the hole, take this rib out, put the next rib in, drill the hole, it'll be in exactly the same place. Once I've done all the end ribs, I can take that packer out and I can put the support ribs in, and they'll be drilled all in the correct relative positions for fitting to the aircraft. So here's the jig, clamped down, 3G clamps onto the bed of the pillar drill. Notice I've got very little clearance here between the drill and the piece of material. That's quite an important thing when people use pillar drills. You don't want to wind the pillar drill down too far when you're doing the drilling, because that means there's less of the shaft actually being supported, so it's far more accurate if you can keep it close to. And then I'm using this fast clamp here to clamp the rib into position on the jig itself, and it's just a simple case of making sure we've got the speed fairly fast. I actually need just to speed up my pillar drill a little bit there, and we'll just drill straight through. One done. Okay, a little aggravation. I've drilled all the ribs for their relative holes for the horns and the bearings on the various sections like that, except for the outboard ones. We've got a slight issue with the outboard one. Looking at the plan, it fits like that. It's offset to one side and it's offset slightly to one end. The component sent to me looks like that, which matches all the measurements which are on the plan. Great. It looks like it's sort of on the plan, it's horizontally mounted, which would be something like that. If I mount it like that, this line which I've drawn here is the one for the where the triangular section is, so I'm going to have to dress out a good chunk of triangular section. If I mount it at an angle right the way down to its at the maximum, I'm still going to have to dress something out, which would possibly work reasonably. I'll just have to dress out a small bit on the corner. So I'm thinking I'll go like that. It'll be clamped down tightly and keeps everything pretty much out of the way. The geodetic will get in the way here, which is going to be a little hassle, but that's a minor one. So it's going to be slanting like that. That's my plan. Well, actually I'm going to go anchor nut on a piece of ply on the far side. You'll see that when I make those up. So I'm going to make up a plate with the anchor nuts on. Anchor nut will be biased one-sided so that the bolt can go in, and same on this side, it'll be slightly biased inwards. I'll apply plate, so I can just put the bolt in through the inspection cover without having to try and fiddle a nut in the small gap between the aileron and the actual rib. I think that would make life an awful lot easier. So there's that little issue. Well, just in luck, 2 of the 4 pins just had about 2 threads longer. So look, I've just tightened down this nut here, and it's just, I mean literally just in safety, but it's in safety. So that with stud lock applied to it as a double backup will do me just fine. This is now bonded into position with the square here locked in with this particular clamp, so that's making sure that we've got that perpendicular to the spar. Then this is clamped to that to make sure that it's staying square. The clamp's just on to make sure that it's all in position. With the ply section in place, I'm just gluing in the stiffener going along the edge here, which goes to the top of the spar, and I put a little small packing piece in. I don't know if you can sort of see there, I've just put a packing piece in. Just putting the top one on at the moment. I'll do the bottom one when we have the wing off the board, and I can turn it over and deal with that one better from the underside. But because I've got that there, once this is cured, it'll make this rib extremely stiff, and this is my datum rib. For everything else it's going to be set up off this particular rib. What I'm doing at the moment is I've just marked up this piece of wood, which is the false spar top, but I'm using it as a guide, and clipped it on to the ribs. I've marked where the rib should be, like that, but I've also marked the point for the half rib. I don't know if that's showing particularly well at each station. So this will act as a guide with the rib coming up, sitting on top of the spar here and being clamped onto here to make sure everything is in a nice straight line. So here are the half ribs clamped and bonded in. Can't clamp the lower edge down there because of the compression strut, so I've just put a bit of weight on there just to help sort of push it back a little bit. But we're talking about thickness of a piece of paper type distances there, so it's very, very little. Don't need to really worry about it. But Just need it so it doesn't start to slide or slip and move as they tend to. We've done a fair bit of progress this week. We've got the upper geodetic finished up to bay 4. We've got into bay 2 in the one direction, so to bay 4 in both directions. The aileron support ribs have been bonded in, and the upper doubler is in place, so we're pretty much getting there. All the support ribs have been drilled, all the aileron tip ribs have been drilled, and we've got the half ribs done and dusted, so yeah, can't really complain. Not bad at all. Catch you later. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up. You can subscribe or even hit the little bell notification for future videos. Any comments would be appreciated, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Remember, go fly and feel the sky.